actually creating great places, you have to have that mix of uses. You want to have kind of first floor commercial spaces that are active and housing above that. And when you look at a lot of our downtowns too, this is segueing into a whole different topic, but the the whole idea of how do you activate a sidewalk, a streetscape, is interesting because we mentioned that unless there's a lot of foot traffic, it's really hard for small businesses to survive and thrive and make money. Most small businesses are operating at the margins, and so they can't pay top dollar for those storefronts. So there either has to be some kind of a subsidy or willingness to have a lower rent there. Or what usually happens when you have a big development is that you get chains, because chains are the ones that have the deep pockets that can sign a long-term lease, and the property owner has guaranteed that they're going to get a sustainable revenue from that place. And that's why you almost always in new developments see chains going in, and then maybe over time those will turn over and perhaps the local business will move in. But the other thing that you see a lot, which is not great for our streetscapes, is banks, right? Banks don't generate foot traffic for the most part. But they're hogs of streetscapes because they want to have prominent places on our streets, in our main streets, in our squares, on our corners, and you end up having these offices that are not generating kind of a lot of interesting things to do even during the day when they're open, and their hours are very limited. So if you're trying to create a community that has kind of an 18-hour life and you have all these banks, you're really damaging that. You look at a place like Newton, for example. Newton has these wonderful little squares and villages, but there are just so many banks there. There's not actually a lot to do. They're dead at nighttime.
It makes sense. So it's interesting what you're talking about because one of the blog posts that I'm working on now, I'm calling it From Slummerville to Somerville.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine brought me to Assembly Square Row, which I was blown away by because I was like, is this Robert Moses? Is this Jane Jacobs? I was so confused. So, and I figured out it was kind of a hybrid, but it's that same sort of model where it's predominantly chains, but chains are the ones that can support, the cost of new construction.
Right.
So, is this something, I know we haven't touched on this, and I want to be cognizant of your time as well, that your work, the Smart Growth Alliance is working not only on zoning changes, but economic development legislation.
Yes.
So is that something that we should be cognizant now? What are some of the changes in economic development legislation that you're working on, and how would that impact this?
Yeah, so a couple things. The legislature passed and the governor signed just a couple weeks ago an economic development bill that has a lot of great things in it. And some of them I can mention are funding for important smart growth programs that support the kind of work we all care about. One example is our Brownfields Redevelopment Fund. So recapitalizing the fund that we use at the state level to clean up old industrial properties and make them redevelopable. So it's a win for everybody because oftentimes these properties are vacant or they're underutilized, and by cleaning them up, you're able to get some new growth there and get them back on the property tax roll. So it's great for everybody. Another thing is the Smart Growth Trust Fund, which we have a program in this state called 40R, and 40R is an incentive program for communities to make smart growth districts in their city or town, and if they do that, then they can get payments from the state for that. And so again, it's a fund that needed some more dollars and got them through this bill. Plus there's a major economic development program called MassWorks, and MassWorks is really our one-stop shop for economic development infrastructure that supports smart growth types of projects and walkable places. It's the kind of thing that I was just talking about, where if you have a significant development, you need to improve the transportation infrastructure around it, or you need just kind of better water and sewer, or you need it could be a whole host of things, pedestrian improvements all around it, and so this is a program, and there was $500 million was put into the program over the next 5 years that would support the infrastructure for those projects. There's a huge demand for it across the state. So those are just a couple of examples I want to say about the economic development bill that just passed. And actually for Worcester, one thing that was interesting is that there's a program called the HDIP program, and it stands for the Housing Development Incentive Program. And it's a new kind of program that gets at this issue of mixed income communities, and it's geared towards gateway cities like Worcester that need more market rate housing. Because the challenge in places like Worcester and Lawrence and Brockton and others is that you have the same high construction costs that Boston has, but you don't have the same high rents on the other end. So it makes it very difficult for developers to do the kinds of exciting development that we all want to see, that they would like to do, because they obviously need to make sure that they're not losing money when they do a development. So the program like HDIP, what it does is it provides a new kind of subsidy for housing projects in our older cities that include market rate housing. And that's a very new approach that's been very popular over the last couple of years, and this bill has an expansion of that so that more projects can happen. All that aside, one thing